When you're doing your quality control checks, grouping data in a certain way can make it a lot easier to understand. You can see here we've got a list which is really hard to sort of eyeball and just easily see what's going on, especially if I have a certain task in mind. For example, maybe I just want to see the sampled items or the cross-references or the strongly presumed items. So what we can actually do is we can group by a certain column. I'm going to scroll to the right here and I'm going to grab the inspection strategy. So what we can do is actually drag this up to the top, and you can see if I scroll back to the start, we now have these items grouped by strategy. So there's 3 samples as indicated by this number in brackets. This is how many items there are in the group. There are 2 cross-references and there's 1 strong presume. What's great about this is I can expand or collapse groups as and when I need them, and just keeps things out of the way when you don't need to sort of look at them. So in this case, I've just grouped on a single column, but there's actually nothing to stop you from grouping on multiple columns. So let's take a look and see what else we could potentially group by. I'm going to scroll to the right and see what we've got. Well, it might be quite nice to group by sample ID, perhaps. Or another one we could group by would be the recommendation. I think we'll group by recommendation. So I'm going to drag this up again, scroll back to the left. You can see now we've got the first group, which we can expand. And then we've got a second group, which we can expand further. So in this first group, you can see we have 3 samples that were taken overall, but 2 of them require removal by a licensed contractor, and 1 of them requires managing and inspecting periodically. So that's really helpful. You know, it would have been quite hard to sort of just eyeball that and see it before. You might also want to consider full screening the table view when you're doing this kind of work, just because it's going to make it easier to see what's going on. Now, if I wanted to swap those groups around, I could also drag this with the handle, and you can see there it's now grouped first by the recommendation and then by the strategy, which we'll see if I open this up. So we've got the removal by licensed contractor is the sort of primary thing that I'm grouping on, and then a secondary grouping is the strategy. If you want to remove the groups, you just tap this button here. So maybe I can simplify this by making it just the recommendation, or let's go back to the original list view by removing that first group. So this is a really powerful feature, especially when you're doing your quality control checks. I would suggest checking out some of our other articles on how you can manage tables, for example, sorting columns and also pinning columns, because together they make the table view even more powerful. You can use various different things in combination. Another thing I would like to mention as well is that here I have manually grouped by sort of dragging that column up to the left-hand side to the top. However, we can also create section views. Please check out our article on that. And this means you can actually codify that grouping into a drop-down selection. So easier to sort of show you than to explain it. You can see here it's saying all data. I've created a new section view which is grouped by inspection strategy, so the same as how we had the grouping originally. Let's select this from the drop down, and same as before, we've got everything grouped by strategy, but we didn't have to drag it up. You know, that's the advantage. And also we could have multiple groupings within that section view. So if there were 2, 3, 4, 5, however many groups that you need, they could all be within the section view, and you just have to select one thing rather than having to drag multiple columns up to group by them individually. If you're interested in having section views with some of your groupings, please get in touch with our support team and they can get you set up with that. So just to recap, in this video we talked about how to group columns to make your data easier to eyeball, easier to scan during the QC process. You can group by any column by just simply dragging it to the top, or you can use a section view to save yourself some time and have it available in the drop down here.